I'm pretty excited about actually opening this box.
Help!
Hey, the stickers, Kevin.
Matthew, what are you doing right now?
I'm trimming this tortoise's beak.
Do you work here?
Sometimes.
Is it true?
Sometimes.
Every once in a while.
So why do you have to cut its beak up? What's up?
So, tortoises,
Yeah.
like rat teeth, their face grows, and you have to trim it. A lot of the times that can easily be avoided by putting a cuddle bone or feeding them on slate tiles as well.
Tickle, tickle.
Pooped a minute ago, Jake.
See how that works? When you say tickle.
Do it again. Do it again. Jacob, please.
I'm giving you the tools here, man.
I know, please.
The tools? You mean your finger?
The tortoise isn't...
Tickle, tickle.
Look, his head went up. It's true, his head did go up.
I have it.
Cool. Spencer, damn it.
Yeah.
Sweet.
How often do you get to do this? Oh, it
I
depends.
mean, if you have a cuddle bone, you relatively won't ever have to do this.
I'm sorry. There you go. Let me see that.
You can go more.
Okay.
How do you know how far you can go?
I had done this a long.
Dan's done this 5,000
I do this all the
billion
time for this one.
times. Dan knows.
He's smart.
Yeah? He's gonna outsmart you? That was pretty savage. Dan's giving me the angle.
Yeah, Dan knows.
Just get the nail clippers and trim the toenails.
Hi everyone, for our avid YouTube fan base and Twitch.tv. What are we unboxing here?
We're unboxing some chameleons.
So this is from our friends Brian and Carolyn, which is actually Fram Chameleons, or Fram Cams.
Wow. Frams camps.
So this is Brian and Carolyn from Fram's Cams. We're here in Western Massachusetts. Uh-oh. Oh, check that out.
So these are many generations in of captive bred chameleons, and we get these incredibly beautiful captive, no parasite, line bred for all the polygenic and genetic attributes of locality, because we have all sorts of like Nosy Bay, Diego Suarez, and Banja Blues, all that different stuff. So they're very dedicated to this. I'm pretty excited about actually opening this box.
Here you go.
What do you use that for?
Unboxing.
That's not a knife.
Oop.
Wait a minute, hold on. Help!
Hey, the stickers, Kevin.
Well, nice.
God.
Oh.
Yes. Chameleons. All kidding aside.
Yeah. Oh, that was fake?
We didn't do that.
No?
We would never do that. That's just funny. I mean,
Why do you have that knife, Kevin?
Because I'm in dangerous world of reticulated pythons. And you know, if they try to bite me, I have to like poke them in the bum. This is a surprise female. Okay, surprise female. Sambava. All right, this is really cool. So they have, I mean, obviously there's all these different little localities of Madagascar that's associated with all these different, basically, we're going to call it the genotypes and the phenotypes. But they're visually different per these little localities. And so these animals don't travel a long distance. So a lot of times they basically get like stranded in these isolations. So if you take an area of forest, and we have like less than 1% of the original, 1% of the original Madagascar rainforest is still left intact. So there's pretty much no forest there. If we looked at Haiti, which has no forest at all left. So anyways, what happens is you get these animals that are living in these forests, and then they're isolated by more arid areas that are not like full of all the scrub and stuff where the chameleons could move out. And you create this island. So the genetic depression that occurs in there makes them kind of refined, and you get almost like a broad bottleneck type genetic type thing. But the animals can tolerate that. They do the same thing with African cichlids. They'll take African cichlids that might live around these rock islands, but they won't go out into the big open areas because there's bigger haplochromis and stipidochromis that will actually eat these. And so what they do is they keep all that mutation in the genetics stuck around that place, and so the animals start becoming very descriptive of that locality. So the same thing is actually happening with chameleons. They don't have a great defense except for their cryptic coloration, and they need greenery and all that to hide. So we get these chameleons, and they are very indicative of localities, like Diego Suarez, more like yellow and red, and Banja Blue, more of that. So right now, you want to come over here and look at some of these? Because Jeremy's actually the person that was dealing with Brian and Carolyn about exactly what we were going to get. So you're going to know the exacts. So this little guy's going to be desperate. So first thing is, so right now, see how he's basically sideways to the camera. And so think about a chameleon as incredibly paranoid. It's literally paranoid the world's out to get you. Okay, so he's a lot of desperation. What he's actually standing on isn't so great. So they have these incredibly powerful, like claw hands, and they also have a prehensile tail. But they have such acute vision, and their brains are taking in a lot of information. So right now, we're kind of threatening the safety of this animal. So this little guy is going to be gaping. He's going to puff up, be super, super scared. So if I actually help him out a little bit, there we go. See, that's much more comfortable for this animal because now he can get a really good grasp. It's not going to fall. So right now this guy's calming down a little bit. His coloration, you noticing it's starting to get dark on you? Okay, so this has a lot to do with mood, and this animal is now trying to probably be a passive element in the environment where he became static, stopped moving, and is now kind of relying on its cryptic camouflage, but it is certainly using its eye over here, the one that I can see. It's looking for any other way that he can make an escape.
Kevin, I noticed this one's completely pretty much changed its colors to brown.
So
is it trying to confuse me?
It's trying not to be noticed by you.
I almost didn't notice it. It's magic.
All right, a couple things. What I don't really want this guy to do is to rely on the footing on my hand, okay? I like the paper towel because it's soft. And what can happen with these little guys, they'll really clamp onto something, as they're kind of, they're fearful for their lives. So we kind of need to understand, how they're dealing with stress and what they're trying to understand what's going on. So sometimes they might grab onto something, and if we try to take it off, we could actually hurt their little feet. They have a prehensile tail, and they have incredibly powerful feet for gripping. A couple other things. Chameleons are very, very susceptible, especially when they're babies, of being dehydrated. So this is an animal, under normal situation, you may spray them down several times a day with the fine mist. You're misting the fixtures and the plants and the twigs and anything in the cage for these guys to drink, because they're going to get a lot of their moisture from the dew in the morning, any kind of rainfall. But if you allow these guys to dehydrate, it will often cost them their lives. So they are incredibly delicate. At this point, this is just the delicate nature of these guys is ridiculous. If I don't make sure I nail the temperatures correctly, my room temperatures, your room temperatures are maybe like 76 degrees, not too hot, and then you give them a basking light, could be a red light. You also give them UV light. The basking spot could easily go into the 90s, and they'll go right up underneath the basking area, and they'll present their bodies where they're going to take in the UVA and basically take that to bring up their heat. So what they're going to do to get hot the most efficiently, they're actually going to turn dark, and a dark object is going to attract more solar radiation than a light colored. And once they start coming to temperature, a lot of times their color is going to change. These are an animal that really you want to fuss over. When I say fuss, not a lot of handling, more being aware of their needs. So it's spraying them down, small size crickets, and it just pooed on me. That's interesting. So small size crickets that are absolutely gut loaded, even little fruit flies, wingless Drosophila, not Microscopulus, just Drosophila. So anyways, but gut loaded, always gut loaded by crickets, and even the small lobster roaches. But this is just a truly dynamic little creature, and this someday will grow into a spectacular animal. I think once it's done pooping on me, I think it's time for you to play with it. But look at this! Isn't this incredible?
All kidding aside, this is an accomplishment of a breeder. We're going to grow these guys out a bit. We're going to start, once we feel pretty confident that they've settled. Certainly, they've already sent us really good stuff. Here, Donny, look at this one.
I put a
so
couple.
that's Paranoia. Look at this one over here.
Oh, geez.
It was just doing.
He's like, oh, thanks.
Can I put this one over here?
You can do whatever you want. So what happened? So what's this one doing?
So these are 3 young males. So they're kind of just getting to the point where the males are going to start combating with each other over territory. So if you look, their colors aren't coming in yet, but if you look at this little guy right here, you can see he's kind of getting puffed out. He's got that big white stripe down the back. And these are like those initial, like, don't come near, this is my branch, I'm going to defend my branch, which right now it's kind of cute.
But why could it be a problem? Do you know why?
It can certainly be a problem because they stress super easily, and then of course if they do come into combat with each other, they can certainly inflict serious injury.
So when breeders are hatching these guys can be kind of prolific. You can have 28 eggs or better from this. So if I were to take, let's say, one of like Zoom Ed's wire screen cages or Hagen's and set up the proper environment, and then I just load them all in there, certainly with Jackson's Chameleons. You put a lot of these babies together, you start having mortality because the dynamics, these guys are seeing each other. And one of the first things you can do, that's a good rule of thumb, is create all sorts of obstacles. So if I have a cage, I want to have as many different things hanging down there that it basically interrupt the sight from one animal to another. Because if these guys are constantly seeing each other and always constantly vying for who's dominant, you're going to start having some mental stuff, and the weaker ones are going to start suffering. They might not come out to eat or whatever. And what happens within a few weeks of feeding these guys, they can attain pretty fast growth rate, and you'll start having large ones and small ones. And the large ones at some point will actually try to eat the smaller ones, which is actually pretty amazing. And sometimes not just eating them, they'll actually bite them and damage them. And another sign of stress, they'll sometimes shoot out their long sticky tongue to catch a little cricket or a fruit fly, and they'll shut their mouth on the muscle of their tongue, and that is pretty much fatal.
So what are you trying to do, Kevin?
So basically just trying to get a little bit better
Support. So this is a little male Sambava locality, which is probably a lesser common locality of the Panther Chameleons, but these guys get a lot of great oranges and reds and deep burgundies to them. They're actually quite spectacular looking. And as they hatch, they don't necessarily look that impressive, and then as they start to mature, those colors on the males really start to come in. And they're actually sexually dimorphic. The males are generally the most bright and colorful. They get these very spectacular colors to help them kind of defend their territory. They'll get these bright, intense colors if other males come into play to defend their little home territory. Also for breeding and attracting females. And the females tend to be a little bit more drab, more of a unicolor appearance to them, but they're still wonderful and spectacular all their own.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
So they get their dimorphism as they start maturing. So they're also in size. So Pardalis, the males are larger growing, and they battle other males, are incredibly territorial, and they'll fight sometimes to horrific injuries or to death. But when they're little, when they first hatch out, I cannot look at them like I could look at like a Callitratus. So a Callitratus, which is a veiled chameleon, has a little spur on its rear foot. So it's really dimorphic, so you can visually sex them right at birth.
Right,
and first hatch, they all look pretty much like little beans with legs. The thing about some of these guys are about 2 months old, and there's a lot of bickering, and there's a lot of mental play when you're actually raising these animals. Just to be able to breed Panther Chameleons, is something. You have to be really dialed in about all of your husbandry and your nutrition, and certainly to get a female that has successive clutches without getting egg bound, suffering from metabolic bone disease, and all the different abscesses and the different problems. You really have to be pretty good about making sure that all your insect life is actually has all like the elements of like like calcium and magnesium and whatnot that they need, that the eggs are actually going to run. But what's really interesting is these guys take about 275 days to hatch, and that's not even a standard thing, because when you're incubating these eggs, you might incubate them for a period of time where it's only 76 degrees, and then you bump it up to like 81 degrees and then back down to sometimes that will speed up the incubation process. But I remember breeding Panther chameleons and getting eggs and losing my mind, because you're thinking it's kind of approaching like 3/4 of a year just to hatch. And I breed water monitors, which take 6 to 7 months as it is.
What are we doing today?
So we're taking a look at some really cool old world rat snakes. So old world rat snakes are rat snakes that are not from the Americas. So Asia, Japan, all that kind of not American stuff.
Do that again. We're looking at old world rat snakes today.
Old world rat snakes.
And where are they from?
Old world rat snakes are really cool. They're from basically everywhere that's not the Americas, which is where we are.
What is this?
This is sphagnum moss.
Oh, it's cool.
A key element in keeping many old world rat snake species, because most of them don't like super hot temperatures and they like it nice and humid. So sphagnum moss is a key.
Okay.
This is what we call a conspiculatus, or a Japanese forest rat snake. These guys are super, super uncommon in the US captive market. I can think of maybe only 2 or 3 people that even work with them here in the United States. Really cool animal. Take a look at the pattern of this animal. Red with all those black kind of speckling, and it's totally random. This conspiculatus has a really, really crazy pattern. Their patterns can range from being this really nice red and contrasted black, like this little guy. It can be also a little less red and more fine spotted black spots. It's totally random, but I mean, how can you not like this snake? This is a crepuscular colubrid, meaning that they're out during the hours of dusk and dawn. And if people like old world rat snakes, a lot of times they'll work with bamboo rat snakes, and this is kind of like that next species to go to. I mean, just check that out, man. It's such a cool looking snake, and also another species, like so many old world rat snakes, that doesn't like super high temperatures. So that's one of the reasons why we actually have them down in the pet store, where it's a little bit cooler than upstairs at Nerd with all those pythons. Here's another really, really obscure old world colubrid species. Ooh, he's got a little bit of an attitude here. So this is a Chapiensis, or a Burmese rat snake, and they've got such a cool little head. They'll come kind of around over to you, and look at that. It's like a little bulldog-like head. Super, super cool animal. And of course, those colors, again, just look at those big red bands. Also something that varies with these species, similar to the conspiculatus. Some of them are really red like this, others maybe not so red, and sometimes they can dull out as they age. But if you get some really good quality ones, they can be wonderfully red as adults. I mean, just a really cool, obscure species. These guys come from Asia, and man, I mean, so cool and so uncommon. All right, so this is Elaphé Dion, or Dion's rat snake, or the steppe rat snake. And these guys have a huge geographical range, and they actually come in a bunch of different color phases. This is actually one of the red phases. They have like a beige phase, a yellow phase. They come in a bunch of different colors, but these red guys are probably the most impressive. I mean, this is a pretty iconic rat snake species. This is actually a rhino rat snake, and these guys come from Vietnam. Probably one of the coolest parts about this species of rat snake is the fact that they go through a crazy ontogenic color change. So they hatch out silvery gray, just like this guy, and as they age, they start to turn green. So this guy and this entire group was actually produced from a green to a blue parent. So basically what that means is as these guys age, they go through an ugly stage, they kind of turn like an olive green, and then they start to get a much more vibrant green. And since this is from a green to a blue, once they hit around 3 years old, they'll get this gorgeous blue that starts to come up from the belly. So the other really cool thing, as you can already see, they have this little like proboscis-y kind of appendage coming up from their nose. It's how they get the name rhino rat snake. And there's a bunch of different thought processes on why that appendage exists. One is it helps kind of make them blend in a little bit if they're kind of moving through the trees. These are actually a pretty bold species of rat snake, meaning they'll actually, if you have them in a vivarium setup, they'll actually hang out and bask, and they won't be too quick to run away. I was actually just playing with some adults at a friend of mine's place the other day, and as soon as I opened the door to the enclosure, they actually came right out. They're super inquisitive and just a super cool snake.
Everyone like and subscribe, hit the notification bell. Please watch us on twitch.tv. Also go into our live streams, ask us questions. We always love that. Of course, we're New England Reptile on our New England Reptile distributors on Facebook, and also Evil Morph God on Instagram, New England Reptile on Instagram. Then OnlyFans.
Mm-hmm. Have you been posting on OnlyFans?
I have not been playing with OnlyFans for a couple days because if I don't get attention on my OnlyFans, I won't even say anything.
Kevin isn't posting on there because you guys aren't being nice to him enough.
If you guys aren't saying anything to me, I'm going to be really
Why bother, right, Kevin? Like, why bother?
Hope you guys could smile over this video. We have to joke a lot.
I gotta turn my camera on, dude.
You didn't turn your camera on.